Let me,
There
okay.
we go.
Well, I am going to say good October 2nd to everybody. Good Saturday morning in some places and good afternoon in other places of the world. This is our fifth meeting of conducting informative presentations by individuals living in various countries of our motherland, Africa. Today, I think we have a very special person that will be making a presentation about a country that many of you might be questioning. What about Rwanda? And I may not be pronouncing it the way that they do over there, but that's my best shot being an American. But that being said, the agenda for the day will be such where we will have an opening prayer by Professor G, and then I'll do a little brief information about our presenter today. So that being the case, everyone, please welcome for prayer, Professor G. Professor G, if you turn your mic on, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's bow our heads and lift up a word of praise. Father God, we thank you for this gathering. We thank you for those who have an interest and who you put it on their heart to come home and explore the motherland. We pray for Africa, Lord, that you would grant Africa not only the resources, but the wisdom to be able to use all of the things that you've blessed us with. Even here in Uganda, Lord, we definitely need your prayers for all of the things that are happening here as well as throughout Africa so that we can prosper and take advantage of all of the rich gifts and the people who are coming here. Now, Lord, bless this meeting, bless the leadership of exploring the continent of Africa, bless the presenter, and give us ears to hear. And it's in Christ's name we do pray. Amen.
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 Man.
Amen.
Okay, everyone. Again, I am more than happy to introduce a lady whom I met, actually not in person, and never met until this moment as we're speaking now via YouTube. My interest began to spur about a year or so ago about the beautiful continent of Africa, thanks to a good friend of mine, Kenneth, who I at one time conferred to the fact that I wanted to travel to Ecuador. And Kenneth instantly stopped me and said, well, what about Africa? I said, well, I hadn't considered that. So few exchanges led to my start looking into the beautiful continent in such ways in which I had previously done, but not to the extent I have explored in the last few months. And that being said, I came across Jay Essence, and instantly she caught my attention with her fascinating ways of being herself, and she's quite an extraordinary person. Now, little that I know about Jay is that she is an educator, school teacher, I believe, working with the kids. She graduated from FAMU University. I stayed down in Tallahassee for 5 years, and a beautiful city. And I went to some of the FAMU games, by the way. She is a member of Delta Sigma Theta. And I did invite some of your sorority sisters to come in today, and maybe they will, but so far, no show. But this will be posted out, and I will send it to specifically my manager, who is a member of Delta Sigma Theta. And I'll make sure that you connect with her and other people that I know. But anyways, I don't like to get very long-winded because I think the presenter has such creative energy that she's going to make you guys become a part of her world and how she presents herself and the things that she's doing. Very fascinating. And also, she has a new business. It's called My Cousin Connection. Guys, you got to really get into what she's doing because she's trying to help us in meaningful ways. So please open your heart and your mind to wonderful Jay Essence. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. So if that's the introduction, I'm going to help myself because I'm used to applause. I know we muted, but I'm going to have to do a little something to get the spirit and juices right, you know. So once again, for those who do not know me, my name is Jay Essence, and I find this part being to me the hard part because I just really love having conversations. And so when you tell me I just need to speak, well, how do I start? And what does that look like? And where do we go? So I'll give you the basic details, which is, yes, Mr. Tyrone reached out to me, and the unique piece is that I am currently living on the continent in the country of Rwanda. And I am coming up on my 1 year anniversary. And a lot of people are shocked when we start talking knowledge. They're like, oh, it sounds like you've been there for 5 to 10 years. And I say, I think I stumbled into a calling and learned very quickly because somebody had to be able to answer questions. And as an educator, I like answering questions. I like solving things. I like letting people know the information so they can do with it what they choose to. And so the journey to Rwanda was very unique. Like I said, I feel like I honestly was pushed, stumbled, hit, grabbed into my destiny because I just had a hard time listening and doing what I was supposed to do. When we first talk about just leaving America, and I think that was my journey in the beginning, I needed to find a way to survive outside of America for a little bit because I felt that I was losing my mind. I was losing my mind. I was losing my purpose. And when I'm very transparent, there's this moment that I truly remember of being in this beautiful townhouse, coming home from work, finding the smallest corner I could, and just sitting in a corner in this big house and just wanting to be small. And it was so many things that I couldn't figure out that weren't right. I could never connect life. I could never connect one paycheck to the next paycheck. I could never just be good. I'm always being pulled into an office because you do great work, but can you change your tone a little bit? Can you do this instead? And it was like I constantly felt like I was always looking behind my back. And I thought I did all the right things. I, went to school. I have my degrees. I pay Sally Mae. I have a good job. And it was just that it was just never enough. And I think for someone like me, that part actually start bringing on anxiety. And I didn't realize at the time what I was having were panic attacks. What was having was just these moments. And I truly believed in we wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides our face and shades our eyes. And as this woman, as this beautiful Black woman, as this woman that's in front of education, I'm actually in administration and all these things, you're not allowed to break. You're not allowed to be seen broken. You're not allowed to break. And there's this stigma that if you're not strong, you're weak, and it's kind of like, okay, so you're trudging through this life. You're trudging through this life. And what's happening is you're never really getting to grab anything for yourself. Everything you grab is to manifest and make somebody else better. And I do think that's one of those things where I know I have a lot of brothers on the line, so you're going to have to let me be my Black woman self for a second. I don't realize or think we realize as Black women how we have honestly been bred to take care of other people. It is naturally in us that we, even if you talk about slave ownership, we were milking the masses' children. We were making sure things were running in place. We have constantly been in positions where we can't take the credit for the work we do. We build it so somebody else can take the credit. And we have been taught to be okay. That's our position. We provide, we support, we build so others can be beautiful. And I do believe that in these past few years, if you notice it, when we start talking about Black girl magic, what a lot of Black women have done is stop taking the light on other people and shine it on ourselves. And we are absolutely phenomenal for doing it. And so I hate when people try to hate Black girl magic. We were magical the entire time. It's just that we had to turn around and give our sparkle and shine to somebody else. And so for me, that was so much, this would be the time people call me, that it was weighing a lot on me. I'm a good girl. I did good things. I followed along. I had decent credit, but I could not authentically find that place of joy that people talked about. So I scrunched together and went to a trip on Dubai. And when I say scrunch, for those who know, we were in, it was a Hurricane Harvey. Like I was in Texas when the big hurricane came in. I had to spend all this money, but I had already put a deposit down because me and my homegirl said we were going to Dubai because we're going to be fabulous. Like we might not look like we're going to be fabulous. We're doing fabulous things, daggone it. We turned 40. And so when I was actually on this trip on Dubai, which I went to Dubai with $100 in my account, it was like a really broke trip, that I had a phenomenal time on. I'm happy I prepaid everything. But there's this moment that we were going to the mosque and I was just really quiet. And I heard a voice say, "You can do this." And that was just like, wow. And then literally at the same time, the tour guide was talking about work visas in Dubai. And then he was like, "Oh, if you're on a work visa, you know, and you can't do it. And, you know, you don't work if you're over 55 years of age." And then little voice was said, "And you ain't got a lot of time to do it. So get it done." Like, that's how my spirit speaks to me. They check me. So that's when I went back home to the States and I started making plans to leave the States. And I was very quiet about it. And I actually got a position teaching in Dubai. And I didn't tell people until the very end. It was actually, you know, and all this stuff. When I got the position to teach in Dubai, I authentically knew at that point in time, I was going to retire on the continent. And I was looking at the economy and I was looking at the cost of living and lifestyle. And like I said, I've always been a workhorse. We've always worked. And I kind of just said, I needed to make sure I was someplace, God, that I didn't want to struggle after working so hard. I didn't want to have to go budget and live paycheck to paycheck after I gave 40 years or 30 years to a school. I should be sitting and resting. And so I knew at that point I was going to move to the continent. And I think like every person, you look at Ghana. I think, and that's just because of location. Ghana is the one that here. So I'm making content, I'm meeting people, I'm connecting, I am doing my research for Ghana. Once I moved to Dubai, and it's one thing about position. I think a lot of us have a lot of positions in life. And once you change your viewpoint, it might change your perspective. And once I moved to Dubai, I start hearing about East Africa. Never really heard about East Africa in America. All you hear about Rwanda is Hotel Rwanda. That's it. To know that that history is 26 years old now, but that's what our reality is. So when I got to Dubai is when I started hearing the research about Rwanda, and it really was, could this really be the way it is? And so the funny thing is that I started quietly looking at Rwanda. I was like, okay, let me do the research. And there was just a lot of things, and I'm not here to push against anything. For me and my journey, there were things that I was skeptical about in Ghana. For me and my journey, there were things that started to make sense with Rwanda. And what happened is literally, because I think one of those things that you're told about is be quiet about your moves. Don't talk about your moves or whatever else like that. The opposite happened to me. The moment I went on one of my first videos and I announced, because I was tired of people asking me, and I announced I was going to move to Rwanda. I did one thing and I slipped. I don't make a lot of mistakes on purpose. But I slipped and stated that I was supposed to be trying to move to Rwanda or get property in Rwanda. In my plan, it was 3 to 5 years. In my video, I slipped up and said, I'll be in Rwanda by the end of the year. At this time, I had 12 viewers. So I was like, you know what, bump it, I'm going to post it. I promise you, after I stated that declaration, I was moved to Rwanda in the next 45 days. It was when I started telling people my plan is to be in Rwanda, that literally things started happening to make it a reality. I didn't know my friend went here. She had a cousin here. And then all of a sudden a job opened up and it was a perfect fit to go to Rwanda. And so that was my trajectory on just getting to Rwanda. And I tell that story only because I want to let people know it's possible if you're open to possibilities. It doesn't always have to be the strategic set plan. I just think that once I enunciated, there was other work that needed to be done. And that's the one thing I will tell people is you got to be ready to do the work that needs to be done. You know, if you ask God for something, if that's how you believe, you might receive it. But if you're not ready, what next? So you have to be ready to do the work that needs to be done. So that's kind of how I got to Rwanda. And getting to Rwanda, I'm going to give you guys, you know, I kind of want to know the technicals of coming to Rwanda. And for me, hands down, once I touched the soil, I shifted. And there was relief. And there's a video that I did post on my YouTube because I wanted to be authentic with the experience. And the reason why I did that video is I did not want to forget the gratitude of that moment. There were things that I saw when I touched down that reminded me of my childhood growing up in Oklahoma. And people laugh. This red dirt that is out here is the same dirt I played in Oklahoma. There were just little bitty things. And so touching down for me was a shift. There was a freedom. And it truly allowed the point of discovery of who I have truly been created to be. And I was living muted and small. And if anybody asks, they're gonna be like, oh, J Essence was never like that. Like, I've always been sparkly and bubbly, and I have, but I don't think I ever lived in the belief of who I have been created to be. I was always working for somebody else. And so just for me, being in this country has helped me slow down enough to be able to shift and discover who I can be. The definition of who I am is so different from last year. And it's a point now, if you honestly ask me who I am, I can ask you who I am now. Because in a week from now, it's still changing. It's still evolving in so many different ways. And there's a point where I tell people, please be quiet enough. Because if you really want to know the truth, you have no clue of who you can be. You just need to ask, oh, see, somebody prayed a good prayer because I'm getting it in my soul. You just need to ask God, what can you do with me? And be quiet enough to listen and get out of the noise. Because we have noise that distracts us. We have noise, and it's important. We have bills, we have things to do, we have all these other different things to do, and we don't get to be able to see that. So I want to be very careful because I don't want to sit there and promote Africa as an end-all solution. It was for me. And I feel that everybody needs to be quiet enough to at least go on the journey so they can discover their own truths, their own yeses and their own nos, and their own capabilities and possibilities and their own, I ain't never doing this again. But you have to be able to get into a place where you have the right to ask those questions. You have the right to discover. I have no idea what that means about Rwanda. What do you like? You want to know the population? But that's really about the journey. The reason why I think people watched on YouTube for me is that I wanted to provide a space, one where I can document my truths. When people ask me about being a YouTube personality, it was really because I was tired of answering questions. Like, I would get off the phone with my mom, my dad would call and ask me the same questions. Then my sister would call with to say, if y'all don't get together. So I could only tell this story one time. So I started actually recording a lot of my stories and my travels because I had time to tell the story 20 times. And literally the YouTube channel just started populating basically while I'm going through these discoveries of this is what's good, this is what's not good, this is what it's like to get on a moto, this is what this costs, this is what this costs, this is what happens. Oh, they stare a lot here. I bought a shirt that says I am stareable. That's how I combated that, because why not? I'm worthy to be stared at. Anything else? And just going. So now in this journey of who I am, I have bought land. I have actually 2 spaces of land. One is underway of becoming a farm, and the second place will be my forever home. And they're on a lakefront. And then what else have I done? I forgot. Like, somebody help me. That's why I need a personal assistant. What else have I done? Lord. Oh, I started the business. That's a big one. I started the business, My Cousin Connection. And what honestly happened is that I feel that I am a very home-based, family-based person. And I believe that people should have support. And in that, I also believe in people should have empowerment. And what we've done is created a website and a family atmosphere to empower your knowledge. There's a lot of questions out there. And like I kind of said, I don't like repeating stories too many times. So we provided articles. We have over 40 articles regarding land buying process, visa process. What do you need to know? How to land? What things do you need to bring? What should you bring over? We're working on an article now about shipping and what does that look like? Taxis, those different things. And we just kind of put the information out there free and biased. With My Cousin Connection, we also connect what I say is the family. We have started moving into helping people settle. We believe in helping you become sustainable. And so we help people get banking, bank accounts, MTM numbers, work with a system out here that's called the Momo money system, which is very popular, but it's very confusing for us because we're foreigners and have no clue how the system works. And it's freaking phenomenal. But one thing about Rwanda is that Rwanda treats people as if they're already known. And I don't think they're used to many strangers. And so what happens is when you're trying to get information, it does become infuriating because you're asking to be taught something and they're treating you as, why don't you know? And there's many times I walked in a place and they'd be like, why didn't you just go online and do it? I don't know to go online. I don't know like these systems and processes. And so My Cousin Connection, we actually have events. We just had a VIP brunch this morning where our VIP members got to meet in a very private, secluded spot. And it's an opportunity for them to be able to explore the city in different places. We sometimes sponsor game nights, culture nights during our lockdown with Zoom. We were having Black Card Revoked parties online, virtually. And we just come together and it's bringing in that unified spirit because I think everybody out here has the commonality of just trying to find home. And that was the key thing. And so My Cousin Connection is that business that's able to turn around and do that and support that. Even recently today, somebody called in, hey, I've been here 4 days. I'm having problems. Come over to JS's Estates. We'll talk. This is what you need. Oh, this is the website you need to go to. This is how you get a taxi. This is the language barrier. So don't use this app. Use this app instead because they understand the language barrier. Use this. One thing that people don't tend to realize is that your socioeconomic status means a lot out here. And what I mean by that is that if you're trying to do, like, let me just say, if I'm trying to go ride a moto or something like that, it's a very good chance that my driver does not have GPS because they don't have a smartphone, because they're using a very basic phone, because getting a smartphone means that they can afford and get data, which is internet. And you really don't need internet to survive out here on that level. So for us who are GPS dependent, and we get in there, we're asking somebody to take us someplace and we don't speak the same language, and you like, that it becomes a frustration piece versus how can you navigate around that? And that's what we help do. We help try to teach you how to navigate around certain things so it's not as infuriating. Because one of the things I want to say is Rhonda might not be for you, and it's okay. I don't ever want people to say, Jay Essence is telling me I got to come to Rwanda. I don't say that. I just give you the information so you can navigate it, so you can make the informed decision on, is it for you or not? So you're not dealing with a confusion or a frustration. You like, there's a way to get through things because you should spend time in different places to know what suits you. Rwanda might be for you, Rwanda might not be. It's okay, but please don't be frustrated coming someplace if you haven't reached out, if you don't know the people, you don't know the system. Some of you guys are solo travelers and you can be a solo traveler. My Cousin Connection makes it where you don't have to be if you don't want to be. You got family here. You got some places, but you need some red beans and rice. We got somebody who brought over some red beans. We do red beans and rice on Thursdays once a month. What you want, baby? What you need? My mama made cornbread the other day. What you want? You need a little bit of Jiffy? We brought some Jiffy, baby. Like every time you need that little hit bop or whatever, we have that there. So I don't want to talk too long because I am a talker. And I don't know what the meeting is about in regards to what you guys want to do. And I don't like wasting people's time. So I guess at this point in time, if we can go to the questions, and if there's anything that anybody wants to know pertinently, I definitely will reach around and come back to that. But I want to make everybody's time be purposeful here. So is that okay, Rosalind? Can we get into some questions?
Absolutely. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Such a great introduction and just history about what has been happening in Rwanda for you. Such a blessing to hear that information. First, can you hear me well?
I hear you phenomenally, girl. You better speak with that voice.
Perfect. All right. In that case, we'll go to question one. And
Okay.
the first question is, what would you consider to have been your biggest adjustment from living in the US to living in Rwanda?
So I've actually done a couple of these. I sometimes feel like that's an unfair question to ask me. The reason why, but I will tell you what my business adjustment is. The reason why is, one, I am a country girl. I grew up in a town called Langston, Oklahoma. My town had no traffic lights. It was that small. It was so small for people who are old school. We only had to dial the last 4 digits of a telephone number to get connected. So it was small. Langston was small. So I am a country girl, and Rwanda is very country-esque to me. I am very fine with calm nights, nothing to do, or different things like that. I don't mind reading a book. I don't mind doing that. I went to New York. I hated every minute of New York. Don't care. You cannot sell me on New York. So I will say that the first and probably major adjustment for most people is they might find Rhonda slow. I do feel like it tends to be a little bit more conservative. It's old school. I call Rhonda like living at your grandparents' house. If you spent summers with your grandparents, that's Rhonda. That is Rhonda. If you lived with your grandparents, you could go outside and play for a little while. Don't bring that mess in my house. You could come here. What time is bed, curfew, all that stuff. So the very first one where people might say it's a headache, so I don't ever want to seem like a liar, is it's a pace. It's the pace of a town or the pace of a city. Rwanda tends to be much slower paced. The second piece I tell people is I went to Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in the 90s. I know how to stand in line for financial aid. And I say that because there are processes that are these processes for no reason. Like you just have to wait in line, or you just have to. And it's weird, but I know that life. I know that life of having to meet so-and-so to talk to so-and-so or so-and-so here, or do you know, I just know. And so I do feel like that HBCU life also gave me an advantage, because there's a lot of times when something happens and I just click back to, well, I did this. All right, let me just sit here. Like me getting my bank account the first time, because my cousin connection makes things happen. But the first time was a 2-hour process. And everybody's like, oh my God, I had my headphones on. I was dancing. It was like a new mix I had downloaded. I was like, oh, okay, with the old school, I'm in line dancing, chilling, have a good time, to the point where they remember me. Like even I walk in the bank, they'd be like, oh, that's the dancing girl. And I have my account now. My cousin connection, those are things that we kind of know are frustrating. So we walk you through those processes. And now we're at the point, because we've been in business for like 3 months, that we now have personalized managers that we can call and skip through the processes if you work with us. So these are things that we kind of adjust to. What I will say is probably the hardest adjustment for most people still, for me, is the timing and paceness of things. I like things getting done. It took me, this just happened, 2 hours to buy one carpet. Like I had a shopping list of 42 things. It took me 1 hour to buy a carpet. And not because backwards, it's just, there's like your market. You don't have your Walmart where you can go and get everything. You have to piece things together or something, or just the timing of getting things done. I want this fixed today. And what is it? Yes, 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 yes. No, not yes, yes. I want it today. Yes, 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 yes. No, no. Does that mean you're coming back today? Oh, no, 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 no. Then why are you telling me yes, yes, yes? Like, and they'd be like, oh, calm down, relax. Like, it is just like, so it's one of those things of, even for us, and I say being westernized, and with that microwave, we are used to things happening and get it done. And that is just not the way it is here. I did a video on what I had to go through for customs, and literally every piece of the place, they were like, oh, it's a process. Oh, it's a process. Oh, it's a process. And then me being who I am, I'm like, well, fix the process. Like, why can't we just, I want to fix things. Like, let's put it together, make it make sense. It's a process.
Hey, Kathy, tell Barry, I just sent him the meeting ID. Let's go.
So I will say just to me, and I can't speak of all of Africa, there is an adjustment
Sorry.
in pacing
Mhm,
and timing and how things are done. That takes an adjustment.
mhm. Okay. Well, everybody be aware of that. Processes
Oh, it is.
and adjustments and slow pacing and
For
okay.
no reason. For no reason. For no reason.
All right. So moving on to the next question. What's the longest tourist visa available?
So this question was funny in a way because I have to break down, like I say, I like to talk in truths. So I'm going to ask it on its front end. And the front end is you can extend your tourist visa for 90 days. So when you land in Rwanda, you automatically get a 30-day visa. If you want to stay longer than the 30 days, you simply go to immigration and you extend, and it extends to 90 days. One thing that's very unique is that in immigration, once you pay, your visa is automatically valid. So as long as you have that receipt, you have a valid visa. So sometimes they're like, they said it's going to be 3 days, it's 5 days, I'm expired. As long as you have the receipt, you are okay. So that is your technical answer to you can extend out your tourist visa for 90 days at a time. I'm not sure. I heard you could do it for 2 years. Now, here's the other one. There is a visa called Reciprocity. And that visa is open for African Americans, if you're looking. And that Reciprocity Visa is a technical tourist visa that will identify you as a resident of Rwanda. That visa is valid for 10 years. So you can get that tourist visa, which is a V12 Reciprocity. It's valid for up to 10 years, depending on your application. And in that one, you must leave the country every 6 months. Now, when you leave the country, they don't tell you where to go. You just have to exit the country and come back. So you literally could go to Tanzania for the weekend or someplace and then come back. And that was classified as it has the same recommendations under visitor. You're recognized that you're a visitor tourist, but that you have interest in Rwanda on a non-work way, in a non-volunteer way. So you could do that. So people who are looking for long-term tourism or that piece, I would say definitely go for the V12, which actually, oh God, you're getting me off. At the most, it's $200. I really want to say it's $160. At the maximum, it's $200. And my mother has that visa. So we've actually walked through that process.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for that information. Wow. 90 days. And then there's also that reciprocity visa for 10 years.
And I would say people, if you're really trying to go and look, like, get the reciprocity. It's easy.
Okay.
And you can, let me stop. You can apply for it while you're in the States.
Oh.
You can apply for it while you're in the States because all you do is send your information off to the embassy in Rwanda. No, the embassy of Rwanda in the States, and they will process it for you, stamp it, and send it back to you. So you can have that visa already before you get to the continent.
Okay, that's good to know. Some time saving, perhaps.
Or you just want to be like, I'm out, I'm done.
Right. Yeah. So question number 3, what are the process to obtain dual citizenship in Rwanda?
Okay, this one has gone through changes. So you of course have your marriage, you have your bloodline, you have your typical ones. You can receive dual citizenship. So the thing was, it used to be like after 5 years of living here, but they moved that to 15 years. But you can also receive dual citizenship with, and I got to get this right, it's kind of like a special pardon. So like if you're a certain type of individual, if you've done things or whatever, you can get it on special request. So one of the things that I do believe that's happening and I'm going to sit here and say, is that Rwanda is paying attention to people who are coming to Rwanda to ensure that they are here for Rwanda.
Mhm.
And so they're not going to give up citizenship as easily anymore. And let's just talking openly. Basically, there's been NGOs or people who have done things to profit off of poorness or poverty or different things, and or businesses that have been created that, and this is not a Rwandan thing. This is a international country thing to me,
Mhm.
because you can have people in different countries, and then they are, I'll speak on my experience in Dubai. There are private schools that charge and get money from those schools, but they send their money back to their own home country. They don't necessarily spend it in that country. And so what happens then if you're a country that's looking at their economy and trying to big up, and you're giving all these things to people, but they're not putting money back into the economy. They're not creating jobs. They're not training people, which is a very big deal out here on being able to be self-sustainable. It's one thing for me to hire you. It's another thing for me to train you. And
Right.
that's one of those things that people, I feel like the government is starting to pay attention to, is what are your intentions? So I don't want to talk or dive deep into the dual citizenship. It's very possible. There are 5 ways to do it. Once again, those are articles we put in My Cousin Connection. But I do feel like those are things that Parliament is talking and discussing in order to keep the interest of Rwanda strong. How do we navigate these things properly?
Right. So that's a good opportunity for you all to go ahead and make yourselves available to My Cousin Connection so you can get access to those articles, learning about dual citizenship. All right. So last question here that I have, what is the political climate like during elections?
I have not lived here that long to know that answer. So I did see that one, and I don't want to speak on that because I like speaking from what I know.
Absolutely.
And so that's not one I've lived or witnessed to understand. So I am going to pass gently, but pass on that question, if not a problem.
Absolutely. All right. So we have come to the end of our questions that I have. Does anyone have any other questions you would like to ask J Essence?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, Anton.
First, can you see me? I'm having trouble with the
I
camera.
cannot see you.
Okay, that's okay. But you can hear me.
We see you now.
Okay. First of all, that was great. Thank you so much for sharing that, J Essence, with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so my question is, so for all the people here and people that are viewing this now and that are viewing this in the future are going to want to know, like, hey, now I know Jay, and now I do have the courage to make it out to Rwanda. But I don't want to go by myself necessarily, or I might be afraid because I don't know anyone except for J Essence. Is there a program that you offer or some sort of like tours that you offer for folks who are interested in coming out to Rwanda?
I'm going to love you, Anton. You know I don't remember half the stuff I do. Yes. I really don't remember half the things I do. I'll be like, oh yeah, I do that. So the answer is yes, Anton. And I'm going to say thank you, friend. Thank you, family. Thank you, cousin, because he knows I've been working behind the scene to roll out tours. And one of the things that's actually, I didn't even talk about it. Yeah, Rwanda is very popular, and I agree to this popularity. And it's a newfound popularity for retirement. There is actually a retirement visa. That if you are retired, you qualify to have a 2-year visa here. And it's a very good look. To talk about Rwanda itself, Rwanda is very strong with making sure that they are the Singapore of Africa, and they're following through with that vision. I do want us to get Hotel Rwanda out of our heads. Hotel Rwanda is a moment in history. It's a beautiful film. It received accolades. It opened up a truth. That truth is not the only thing Rwanda is. There has been so much growth to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous how much change has happened in the last 26 years. For His Excellency Paul Kwame to look at the aid that's given to someone after a war, and literally he looked at it, he paused it, and he said, what is the best way for us to utilize this so we can grow from this? And immediately went into infrastructuring the roads so you can connect and go anywhere on paved roads, transportation system. They created a system where every family received a cow. And the reason why is because they were able to start generating their own income and wealth and different things like that. So I say that first because there's been so much growth. It is absolutely ridiculous on how modernized it is and still going to be for Rwanda. So we have to take out this notion of what we think is there, because it's not. It is not. And they also did very well studies on going to countries around them and seeing what the conflict was, why people wanted to leave, and coming to Rwanda and changing those systems. So because of that, you have businesses. You can start a business for no money. No money. And you start a business for absolutely no money. That's one reason why the visas are very much black and white and cut and dry, because they really started taking the loopholes and questions out of things. Even when you go to do government work, if I'm going to immigration and I have to pay immigration money, I don't pay immigration money. There's another company called Rimbo. They took out the corruption piece that could handle, like, you can't handle money in the government. You handle it through this third party. And so they really worked hard on creating a corrupt-free environment. So I go back to with the retirement piece, and I'm going to answer the question on tours, because it makes it ideal for our elders to come in and find a place of peace. I'm not having to navigate corruption or different lines or different things. I'm able to sit up here and set up. And when I talk about being free, I have a lifestyle. It's mine. I have land. Buying land is a government process. There's no need for a lawyer. You can have one if you choose one, but everything is cut and dry. It goes through the notary. There's courts that follow through with these things. So what I have worked on is now creating retirement tours, and we will be launching that information pretty much in 10 days, where if you're interested in just learning about Rwanda and what it's like to retire there, we actually have workshops. We're going to be pulling in people from those actual agencies to talk to you. We're going to talk through the land buying process. We'll go on city tours. We'll actually go on some fun tours. You'll get to meet other expats who've done it, but it's an informational based type tour with that fun in it, with that same family environment that we do. But now you get to do it and gain information and be able to make, like I said, informed and empowered decisions. So we definitely do the touring. And then Anton, if you're just coming in, we're also starting to build like those private tours. It gets to a point where if you ask me, my people make it happen. We find a way to make it happen, and we do it because we want you just to feel comfortable with what you're trying to do and being able to trust or whatever, or we put you in those hands and connect you. So yes, those things are coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I was really wanting to know that, because I do know people who are interested in coming to Rwanda, so yeah, that's great. That's good to know.
Retirement and relocation. We'll be doing those two types.
Okay, great.
My name is Barry Williams. I have a question.
Hey, Barry.
Hi, you can't see me. I don't have a camera, but here's my question. You just talked about retirement.
Yep.
What about when we get a certain age? You're not there yet, young lady, but when you get a certain age, medical insurance and medical care is extremely important.
Good question.
And so here in the US, I can use my Medicare card and I have insurance. What would happen if I decided to retire there? What about medical insurance for people like me who are not, who just have what the equivalent of a green card? I just came in, so please forgive me if you've discussed this earlier on.
So so there's a couple of options. Number one, The very first I'm going to talk about is under the retirement visa at this point in time for Rwanda. At this point in time, under the retirement visa, they do require for you to be medically insured in a Rwandan-based company, and that company is UAP. And actually, it's a good company. That company, let me take that back. I want to give all the information. If you're under 65, there's 2 companies to choose from. If you're over 65, there's 1 company to choose from, and that's just because of aging. Okay. Now, the company that I like about UAP, and I'm still learning, and like I said, I like to live things. I am currently going for my business visa. Once I get my business visa, I will be using UAP so I can sit for myself. What is it like? Through the research, I do like what it does because UAP is not only covered in Rwanda, is covered in the East African countries. Kenya has, out of the top 10, Kenya has 2 to 3 of those hospitals. So under UAP, if something severe is happening, you can go to Kenya to one of those hospitals. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I like about it. The other piece of it is we have to, and this is where we're westernized and we don't have this conversation a lot, is that medical insurance out here, when we price checked it, because my cousin connection, we actually did the price checking, and I think we picked somebody 70 just to do basic ones. To be covered for the entire year was maybe $700. What we don't realize is, and there's a video if you want to go to my YouTube with my mother. Hello, thank you so much. Sorry, Juice. With my mother, where I made her go to a doctor visit. I wanted her to have a doctor. I wanted her to have all this stuff. And my mother was paranoid because she had to, in the first time in her life, check no insurance. And when she checked no insurance, she went in, she got blood work done. She got her prescriptions. And I promise you, she paid $20 total, uninsured. What we don't recognize is the cost of medical. So we're used to being insured. And that's one of the things, you're right, with retirement, you really need to dig down if you know people or come visit and go and ask those questions about medical insurance. So for Rwanda, there are insurance companies. Now, the other one is, if you're just wanting to go, it's another insurance company. You can reach out to me. But really, once you leave America and change your trajectory, and I talked about that, I think you missed that part earlier, is that literally once I moved and changed perspectives, you can get insurance that covers you all over the continent of Africa and India through certain companies. Those are not US-based companies. In fact, when you were price quoted these companies, if you added the US on it, it made the insurance almost triple the amount it normally was. The US cost so much. Mm-hmm. It cost so much. And so those are one of the things, Barry, like if you wanted to talk later, go consultation, I will walk you through the research that I found, but it was absolutely breathtaking because I was really considering taking the African plus India coverage. The only reason why I didn't is because I want to do this UAP because that's what my retirees are going to have to do. And I want to be able to speak on a stronger behalf of that company. But there are really a lot of options if we start thinking away from the US. And one of the options, let me go into this, and I talk too much, so I apologize, cut me off, is that I was, when I moved to Dubai, I was really hell-bent, excuse me if I'm cussing, but I was hell-bent on doing things correctly. I wanted to make sure I was taken care of. So I got my life insurance. I was putting into a retirement plan, all of these things. I got my life insurance. I promise you, I was probably paying maybe $400 a month for life insurance. Once I moved to Dubai, I went to a financial thing and I was hearing different things. And the girl of there, who my financial advisor, was like, let's talk about your budget. So we were talking to the budget and she's like, why are you paying $400 for insurance? And I'm like, because life insurance, that's what you do. And she's like, are you insured on this side of the continent? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, literally, international insurance people cover more and they cover more things. On my life insurance in America, the one that I had, if I died as a resident in another country, they would not cover it. If I If I died, I had to die of 3 causes. My new life insurance costs $100 every month. It covers every single place I go in the world. And there's 78 different things I can die of in order for them to cover it. And so literally, it was just a lot of waking up for me once I started moving out of America. Like, you guys have been jacking us up, making us think this is the only way. It is not. There are questions that we should be asking and doing. It was something with my life insurance that they only paid out if I was in hospice. And I'm like, yo, now I'm grown. I know what hospice is. Why are you gonna pay me out my $1 million when I got 7 days left? Like, I don't want that. Like, and so those questions, Barry, are very, very important. And it takes the additional research and asking, or at least for you understanding, okay, there's more companies. Let me research these other companies. Let me ask these questions. Let me know. Because what I found out about health insurance, even out here, just the cost of going to the hospital. I had a friend who broke her whole ankle. I love being Black. That's what we say, the whole ankle, not half the ankle. Yeah, the whole ankle. Because, you know, I ate the whole, you know, but when but for her to get casted and everything, she didn't spend more than $200 for everything with physical therapy.
Wow.
Can you tell me the full name of UAP so I can do some research on it? And my major concern is not I apologize, not doctor visits, but what happens when you get old and you have to have a major operation. One major operation can use all of your savings, even if you have millions of dollars.
But that's why I said, yes. So UAP it's UAP Rwanda.RW.
Okay.
I'm trying to see what the UAP stands for. Give me a second. I'm looking on the internet. What does UAP stand for? UAP Rwanda.RW.
Okay, I'll try to find it.
Yeah, and so those are things. And like I said, you come out here. I'm not a salesperson for anybody. What I'm saying is, I agree with you. I'm looking at the medical hospitalization is not the doctor visits. Because for me recently in the last 3 years, like, I had bones break, like, which was not new for me. So those are things that I pay attention to. And my mother's here. And so I have to make sure that she's taken care of. So UAP Rwanda is one. The other one, and that's what I cannot remember. Oh my gosh. I'd rather you know about the international insurance. And I cannot remember the name. I just remember Peter.
Here for a second?
Who's interjecting, but yes.
Hello, Professor G.
Okay, hello there, how are you? I used to be an insurance agent years ago.
Okay.
And I did some research on this because some of the policies cover you up to 60s, others up to 65, some to 70, and some will only cover you if you have the policy in place. And so I just posted something just a couple of days ago on researching this through InterNations and through insurance. And there were 3 policies that I found that covers people who are on Medicare or over 65. And one was Geo Blue, the other was Aetna, and the other was Cigna. But I just posted this on Exploring the Continent of Africa, so you can research it for yourself. You can see it, it's right there, and you can click on it. It gives you all of them. I had Jubilee here in Uganda for a while, but then once I heard it covered me, so I had to start looking for other insurance as well. Hopefully that helped. It was right there on Exploring the Continent of Africa. And that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, UAP goes up to age 80. If you're not, and if you already member 85. Yeah, whatever Professor said, you got to do the research, but there are other questions to ask, and they are really, really good questions. And there's a lot of coverage that is out there. And so I can't find, but you know what? I hate to say this, on My Cousin Connection, I posted the link for the, there was a link for a company that did comparisons of like all your major insurance companies, so you could know which way you wanted to go and call them.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
So much. I'm still here looking for what UAP stands for.
It's UAP-Rwanda.RW.
Yeah, it doesn't really give you the
what it actually stands for. But I do know, like they cover you in East Africa.
In case anyone is looking for that actual website, it's going to be here on the chat.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or any interjections for Miss J. Essence?
I just wanted to add, just to agree with Jay, that how she was talking about the hospital visits in Rwanda. They are very, very much affordable, even if you are uninsured. I went to King Faisal, which is one that a lot of, a lot of the tourists and expats go to. Wonderful service. And I got blood work done. I saw a specialist, and it was like, I want to say like $27 US or something like that. So yeah, it's very true.
I just know from my friends who have done stuff that one thing I do feel about Rwanda is that they're very honest, because like there was some stuff happening and they had already done the referral to get them to Kenya and different things like that. And only because if you noticed, for those who watched, and Anton, you kind of watched, like I interviewed the young man who was in the major car accident and now is paralyzed. And so when he was talking about his hospitaling and all that stuff, that's when I got to learn a lot more about the surgeries of what, happened and all that kind of stuff.
All right, that's great.
Yep.
Great.
Roz, I have a few questions I would like to pose.
Go, Cheryl. Y'all asking the real questions today, baby.
We have a question in the chat here. Before Tyrone. If you need to get money from banks, how long does it normally take? And changing your banks from the US, what's the process? So,
girl, you have stumbled onto some serious stuff. Take out your pen and paper. Okay. Right. Here's your first technical. Your first technical is you can pull money from your ATM card. No problem. You can pull money. However, there is a maximum of 200. Okay, I gotta go. $200 US, which is 200,000 US francs. One of the reasons why is because when you work in francs, when you work with the cash currency in Rwanda, the highest bill is a 5. So, okay, so that's period on why you can only get 200, because you can only disperse 40 bills at a time. Okay, so the very first thing is just very simple. You can pull money from your US, from your debit card, no problem. Now, what you're now trying to get into is these currency things. That's when I talk about the work that we do at My Cousin Connection. That literally is almost like a day training, because so much. Number one, there is no recognized US bank here in Rwanda. The closest you're going to get, I can't even say that. So you're having to do a wire transfer. Number one, you have to talk to your own bank about how much a wire transfer is from your US account to your Rwandan account. This is a whole consultation, Cheryl. Like, there's a bunch of stuff I'm about to say you're not going to understand. When you go open your bank account in Rwanda, you need to open up a USD account and a Rwandan franc account. You want to open up a USD account because some banks will transfer to Rwandan money, some banks will not. Okay, so you always want to have a USD account so they can transfer US money to US money. Okay, how long does it normally take? It depends on your bank. I can get money to 3 to 5 days. I use a system called Wise, which is an internet banking system. I purposely did that because of the currency exchange rates, because you can be charged $30 to $50 just to wire from your bank, to wire over. When I use Wise, I am charged like $3. There's also World Remit that you can turn around and utilize, and you might be charged $2. Like I said, this is a really big conversation. The other piece of it is, I'm forgetting one more piece. God, give it to me. changing your banks, changing your banks. It's so much to this whole currency conversation. It's a lot. What I would suggest people to do, hands down, is if you visit Rwanda, walk out with a bank account. You don't just come and be a tourist, go and get a bank account. So then you're able to transfer and figure that out. Because when you move here and you don't have that, one of your biggest headaches is trying to figure out how to get your money over here. That's what I'm about to say. Credit unions in the US are the biggest headache.
There we go.
If you have your money in a credit union, I authentically suggest that if you're moving to the continent, shut it down and move it to a popular bank, which is like a Wells Fargo or a Bank of America or someplace that's used to. Credit unions have so many rules and stipulations. Very first one, this is me living. My credit union did not recognize the website because I was on African internet. And when I was in Dubai, it was Middle East internet. So I couldn't even log into the website at all unless I had a VPN. Then they sometimes have stipulations on how much can be transferred. And I've dealt with people who are cousins here who their bank told them that they cannot transfer if they're not in person. So like I said, this is a big conversation. It's not something to go to anything lightly. If you're planning on moving, you need to connect with somebody who lives there, who knows that, so they can walk you through your different options. I am not going to take up the whole hour talking about banking.
All right, so that's a good.
It's a lot.
To get those consultations with My Cousin Connection, especially if you were really planning on moving out to Rwanda.
Cash App does not work for me here.
And
it works for other people. Like those are little bitty things you just need to know.
Yes. Let me make sure that I get all the questions. Yes, it seems like it's a pretty big process to get everything, all the information in regards to money and things like that. So if you're interested in learning more, try to get on offline with Miss J Essence. Okay. All right. Let's see. Capital One. I'm just trying to make sure I get all the questions.
There was two. Housing.
Question about housing in Rwanda compared
I think that's a big question too. So housing depends on your lifestyle. My house, I think, is pretty much top notch, but I'm probably paying at the top of it because I chose to be able to live that way. I think you get, okay, so we got to be careful with housing. And I say that because one, it depends on where you live. I am coming from Texas. I'm coming from Oklahoma. I am used to being able to get a good house for $100,000. That's what we do. I know other places, you're California, you are at 500,000. So one, it depends on where you live and what you think are ready for housing before you can even come to the African market and talk about housing. Because my mother paid $64,000 for her house, that she lives in is just fine. And that's Oklahoma versus anybody else. Now, the housing market that's a big question. Y'all going into these big questions. Where are we at? Where are we at with the housing market? What is it that you asked so I don't get too much? How affordable are homes in Rwanda compared to the US? They're affordable. Very possible. That's not a hard thing. Very affordable. You have to be careful. Cash is king out here. So I would not suggest you looking to relocate to the continent and trying to qualify for a mortgage. I would ask you to save up. The mortgage are little bitty quirks and stuff to it. It depends on your visa, and people don't realize that. If you just have a visa and you're just living here, there's no collateral against the bank knowing that you're going to pay back. You might not qualify. I was on a work visa. I could not qualify for a mortgage because at the end of my work visa, it said I would leave in 2 years. And that changed. Like there's this little bitty quirk. So those are things where I say you have to reach out for consultation and get your exact needs answered. And I go back to what Anton said, one reason why we're doing the retirement tours, so people can sit down and have their personal questions answered. And it's not just talked in generics. I'm just here to help you know that these are good questions. Rwanda, you can get a beautiful home. Rwanda, you can build a beautiful home. There are so many things that you can do. And so I will tell you that, but you do want to be able to reach out to somebody and get that process talked through at least, so you know what you're putting in on your end, so you can have the right expectation.
All right. Now, the next question from Tyrone, or my brother Tyrone here, is what is policing like in Rwanda compared to the U.S.? What's the atmosphere here?
I guess the question is, it's weird, and I know Anton might be able to kind of, well, Anton had a run in, so let me talk first before Anton be like, and I say that because technically, this is the funny thing to me. Technically, if you put up a picture of a U.S. officer and you put up an officer in Rwanda, I think the Rwandan dress is more menacing. Like they're in all black, they're walking around with, whatever, their safety guard armors, they're out. But it's not like that. Like you walk by and you be like, hey, like it's not a fear. Mm-hmm. It's not an abuse of power. But they are out. You can see them. They're doing things. They pull over, like I've been pulled over 3 or 4 times, but it's just like, check the information. Okay, bye. There's not a menacing atmosphere to them. It's not the I got you or anything else like that. It's not that at all. And so when you say policing as compared to the US, I almost don't want to compare because we have to be very honest with the fact that now in the US, policing has gotten such permission to be more than what they're supposed to be. And what we have taught that we're supposed to be able to trust in police, instead of, like, we have learned so much stuff. I think it's almost unfair to try to compare. It's like comparing the biggest bully with just a regular person. Like USA is doing things with their police that we were not told they were supposed to do. And now it's just ridiculous. Look at the justice system. It is absolutely ridiculous. One, the level of education we ask these people to do, which is very minimal, but to be able to think it with the highest level and the training that is given to them, like, it's not the same. Right. I just don't think it's the same. So are you concerned about rolling up on a police officer and being scared for your life? Not at all. I'm not scared for my life with the police officers in Rwanda. There's processes that have to happen, but I don't think it's quite fair to say we should compare the two.
Okay. Ms. Valerie, did you want to contribute something?
Hello. Hi, everybody. How are you? Sorry I came in late here, but I just had a question about, and I heard something about this on, another YouTube channel, speaking about retirement visas. Does Rwanda have any type of retirement visas coming up, or is that something being considered?
They already have it. It's called the Insured Income Visa. So I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I'll break it down. Okay. It's called, the Assured Income Visa. And basically you just have to show that you have assured income. So if you have Social Security, you have to show proof of that income. You have to be able to show that you're willing to transfer that income and spend that money in Rwanda. And that's not too hard, but your basics is that, and it's called Class K Assured Income Visa. The other things that you show with it, you have to have a bank account in Rwanda. You have to, at this point in time, it's not advertised, but I do know, that's research we do, that you need to be able to have insurance based in Rwanda, medical insurance. And then it's a couple of the police report from the past 6 months so you can qualify. And right now, you're supposed to be able to show that you have a minimum of 3,000 coming to you. That's it. And I say that right now because people have known, and one of the things that we're trying to do is ask for audience to see if we can ask for certain adjustments on a couple of things. And that's a whole different conversation. Right. And let me stop and say that, period, especially once COVID lifts up, Rwanda is a very communicative place. And before COVID, it used to be a place where people can just knock on the door and go to ministries, ask for audience, and have conversations. The only reason why that has stopped is because of COVID and restrictions and protections, especially for their ministries and top officials. So those are things that my cousin Connection, along with some others, there's a list of things that we want to ask in order to advocate for better needs, because what happens a lot of times is we feel that is people make decisions and not everybody's at the table. So we just want to be asked, hey, what's the purpose of this decision? So we can make sure that our people who are asking questions follow and abide by those rules. But yes, there is an assured income visa, and it's called the Class K. Class K.
Thank you.
I
A
have
lot
a
of information. Okay,
Ooh,
great.
okay. Can I ask a question, Ms.
Mhm.
J?
Go for it.
I have a different ability, so I have difficulty walking. How accessible is Rwanda for someone like myself?
All right, so I try to keep things real and I try to tell the truth. I love Rwanda. I do. Rwanda is known as the land of 1,000 hills.
Okay.
There's a good reason for that. So I don't think that they have recognized, like you can find your ramps or your different things, but I don't think that they have recognized the true need of the disability. And I say that because I used to work with special education, not as special education, geez, of Special Olympics and working with that. That's what my mother worked in a lot of things. So I've been around that. And even me having the young man who was on, who's out here, and his name is Mishak. And I have a video with him because he was a basketball player and he was in a life-threatening accident and crushed his spine and he can no longer walk. And he is navigating Rwanda in his wheelchair. But he has, I didn't get to, but I talked to him off base and we talk about a lot of those struggles because a lot of stuff wasn't built with that in mind. There's a lot of stairs. So could you live here? Yes, you could. Are you going to find hangups and hiccups? Yes. Because I think that's a new conversation that has to happen. And so I don't want to lie to you and be like, oh, you're fine and you can come. Child, there's stairs all over the place to people like you don't even realize it. And because it's so hilly,
I'm gonna get buff.
yes, baby. The ankles in the quads. The ankles in the quads. Okay. So
All right. Well, that's good to know. Good to know. And I love it that people are honest, because I would hate to go down there and be like, well, how can I get around?
you can, like, for me, I would be okay with you as a tourist because there's going to be ways to do things and we will figure it out. But if you're talking about relocating, I'll be like, baby, we got to talk for a second.
Right.
So
right. That's good.
So unless you're coming in with that, like you could come in with different lifestyles. If you come in with the high lifestyle, I have a high lifestyle. I've said it before. There is, coming to Rwanda, you can be basic, blessed, bougie, bogus. Those are your lifestyles. So if you're coming in on basic, I'll be like, no. If you're coming in on bogus, you'll be fine because I don't shop. Like, people are shopping for me. Like, there's a lot of things I don't do. And those, I don't have to navigate certain places. And so if you came in on high lifestyle, you'd be all right. If you came in on basic and blessed, I'd be like,
okay. So I got to be mumming Warbucks out here. All right. Any other Hawaiian t-shirt? Anton, you're funny. Anton and I have this inside joke about being tourists and how sometimes it's a little bit easier if you go in with a tourist mindset rather than going in with, I'm going to go and try to live like a local, because sometimes you get the real local experience and you be like,
child.
Let me just ask, does anyone have any more questions for Ms. JS?
I sort of, if I can ask this, I sort of touched on this in one of the questions I sent, but just how, I know it's a different lifestyle. I know that it's, I've been to Uganda. Actually, I'm planning to relocate. But what was your biggest adjustment coming from, you said Texas and Oklahoma, to Rwanda?
Pace. I talked about it. So when you see the replay, I talked about it a lot more in detail.
Right.
Pace.
Okay.
Pace. And there is, and like, you have to be careful. There is a language barrier.
Mhm.
Even though they speak English, your local. So when you're dealing with local things, your locals, and I will say this, like my team, I live so bogus. Y'all forgive me. Like I have cleaning ladies, I have security, you know, I have all these people.
Yeah.
But like literally, and this is such a female. So for all my ladies, I could not communicate. Don't put the blue sheets with the yellow comforter. You know, like I want it to match. And I was like, how do you say match? It can't run. Like, because and it's like a go associates like if I'm going to the banks, they know English. If I'm going to certain places, they know English. That's not a problem. It is when it comes time for me to work with my team here. And like one of the things that I have this video of my mother, she doesn't know that, of her trying to communicate with the security guards. And she does a great job because she's like, because I used to work, you know, with the special education program. Okay, I'm happy for you because she's out there
Right.
like that. And I ain't got time for it. So there is a language barrier, and so you can't say there's not, but it's not a barrier that stops you from progressing. It's just one of those things, just like what's something simple like my security guard, he loves us so much that he was locking us in the house at night, you know, and it was like, how do I tell you, stop locking all the doors, leave one open. Like we are in a very high secure place, you know, and so how do you say that in the meet moment? Like I'm having to call people, be like, can you translate? Don't lock all the doors. Like this little stuff.
Okay.
Use bleach. That was one of mine. Use bleach in the water.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's good to know. Good to know.
So yeah, the pacing and there is a language barrier
Communication.
at different levels. It's not that
Right.
you're not going to go to the government and be like, does anybody speak English? Everybody speaks English. They're bilingual. They're trilingual. They know different languages.
There's a question in the chat, Ms. J. What type of political choice does one gain, such as you able to vote or run for office roles?
I am trying to be transparent. I'm going to pass on that question because that's not something I am familiar with, and that was not something I researched at all yet. And I'm barely a year out here, so I cannot answer that question.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Sorry, Mr. Kenneth.
That's okay. When you do post it on your YouTube channel. And let me
Okay.
just plug, Miss J Essence has a YouTube channel. So if you
Yes.
want to put that link in the chat so everybody can subscribe to that. That would be-
Honestly, you just can type in J Essence.
Oh, okay.
It's
All
not
right.
hard.
Let me
Just type in J Essence.
All right. Don't forget, everybody, when we get off this call, if y'all want to support, just go ahead and subscribe. I'm subscribed already, so.
Yep, I did too.
That's what I'm doing.
So,
Yeah.
great. Thank you all. Thank you all. So when Miss J does learn new information, she does post it.
I do. I really do.
So, any more questions, comments?
I have truly taken up all y'all's time. So
We love it. We love it. We love having these conversations, learning about different experiences in the motherland. My brother, in that case, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay, Rosalind, to everyone, by the way, let's give her a great big hand. Rosalind did a fantastic job today.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful for how you
Good job,
this.
Roz.
Yes.
I think you have a permanent job too, by the way, if you don't mind, on our meeting. Oh, yeah, you walked into it. You did a great job as well.
All right. Well, let's have that conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, there's no money being paid, you know, we're
No, I
just,
know.
you know, family members. But listen, everyone, it is a pleasure for everyone to have been on here. And by the way, Valerie, your questions that you submitted to me were responded to.
Okay.
So we're going to post the video out in the in our Facebook forum.
I will watch it.
Also, it will be posted on YouTube.
Oh,
I'm
good.
grateful for each person who's in here today. You guys are extraordinary, and I hope that you've learned something that maybe you didn't know about. But now with the presenter we had today, who conveyed, I think, in a very wonderful way, in a very informative way, and humor along the way too. She's fantastic. I think she's a movie star and probably don't even know her skill sets yet. And you know what I love what she said earlier, and I think is part of who I am as well. She was walking in life, telling herself where to go, and she found out that she began to trust into faith, walking by faith, not by sight. I think is what you were saying earlier.
I think
And
I was dragged by faith, not by sight. Nah,
yeah,
I
there
ain't
you
that
go.
smart. I was dragged by faith.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
I ain't the smartest child all the time.
Well, listen, you and I both have the same problem, man. And we're here because of that same concept that you have, that I kind of got into that way of thinking as well, too. And I have met a lot of wonderful people that are now on this, in our forum today, in our Zoom meeting. And we're going to continue to meet more people. So that being said, we're going to sum up our meeting, but everyone also keep in mind that if you have not heard the song African Unite, uh, developed and performed by Lemon Black, please let me know. I'll send a copy so you can hear it. We will be launching in the next month or so a musical video to the song itself. And we will be asking for people who want to be part of the video to send in whatever we decide what would be appropriate for you to participate. And we want to see a lot of people from all over the globe because we want this song to go international. And we have another project in the work as well too. So stand by and be with us. But that being said, Professor G, I hope that you're still on. I would ask if you could say a closing prayer, please, sir, if you're available.
Yes, I'm still here, brother. I want to stay to the end, and we could have a word of prayer. It's a very good meeting. Thank you, Jay. All right, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we've had together. We thank you for all of those who attended. We ask to continue blessing upon exploring the continent of Africa. Bless the resources of all those in this group so that they can get a chance to come home and see the motherland, Lord, and to visit Rwanda, to visit all of Africa, Lord, so they can reconnect and to be a part of the blessing of this growth that is happening here in Africa. With that, Lord, bless us as we go our separate ways. Be with us always. And it's in Christ's name we do pray. Amen.
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 Well, Professor G, I do hope that you and JS can connect because I think it would be powerful if you two could, because I think you guys got some similar directions that you guys are going into, and maybe her cousin connection might be viable for you in Uganda. But anyways, guys, we're going to conclude the meeting, and again, I'm grateful for you coming in today, and hopefully you've been blessed with new knowledge. Okay.
1 second. Infinix Hot 10I has his hand up, or their hand up, and would like to, I guess, ask a question, or
Well, great.
we'll turn it over to you, Mr.
Mr. Johnson, I think that's your name.
You want to go ahead and just one last question or comment for us before we.
Yes, sir. Yes, hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Hello? Yes, how is everybody?
Fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much for the great sharing, Jay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Though my internet here is really very unstable in Uganda here. Yeah. Yes, this is Thomas. Thomas from Uganda. I hope everyone is hearing me very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, my question to Jay Essence is, since you've been in Rwanda now, you said you've been there for about how long? Was it about
November
4 or 5 years?
2020. No, November 2020. I'm such a baby still here.
Oh, you're still a baby. No.
I'm still a baby here.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Have you managed to get your dual citizenship now?
I'm a baby. I'm a baby, and to be honest with you, I spent more time. No, I have spent time finding me. I have spent authentic time finding me. And even in my roles, I think Tyrone alluded to it earlier. I came out here as an educator. I have left that position in August and been able to say now I'm a, entrepreneur. So for me, I don't think the citizenship, I want dual citizenship. But I do feel like I'm going to get dual citizenship. I feel that I am still allowing God to thrust me into positions. I feel like I constantly stumble into new positions, hence the touring, the talking to ministries regarding a certain thing, advocating for people. I do believe that is going to come for me. I am not stressed. And I know it will, but I do feel like there's other work that needs to happen. And I'm really intentional on answering. And I love Valerie coming in. I'm intentional with answering questions for people. That's what my intent is right now, letting people know the truth so they can make an informed decision on what's possible.
Okay. I surely when I have time to come to Rwanda, I should be able to catch up with you.
Everybody does.
And yeah,
not a problem. Everybody does.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to catch up with you, and yeah, we have a one-on-one chat. Yeah, sure.
Yes. But I am interested in dual citizenship, but it'll happen when it happens.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Thanks for that.
No, thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot.
Right.
Okay, everyone. With that being said, we will conclude our meeting. And again, I'm more than grateful to have the presence of Jay and Rosalind. You did a fantastic job. So just hang in there. It's more to come, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. You be blessed in your undertaking and throughout your entire day and the rest of your life. God bless you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi.